Madam Chair, we are now live.
Okay. I understand that state law currently requires that the following announcement be made at the beginning of every remote public hearing as follows. Due to the current public health emergency, City Council committees are currently meeting remotely. We are using Microsoft Teams to make these remote hearings possible. Instructions for how the public may view and offer public testimony at public hearings of council committees are included in the public hearing notices that are published in the Daily News, Inquirer, and Legal Intelligencer prior to the hearings, and can also be found on phlcouncil.com. I now note that the hour has come. Sydney Sherles, will you please call the roll to take attendance? Members that are in attendance will please indicate that you are present when your name is called. Also, please say a few brief words when responding so that your image will be displayed on screen when you speak.
Vice Chair Jones.
Good morning, Madam Chair, colleagues. Philadelphia, I am present.
Good morning.
Councilmember Gilmore Richardson.
Good morning, Madam Chair. Good morning, colleagues. I am present.
Good morning.
Councilmember Bass. Councilmember Squilla.
Good morning, Madam Chair and colleagues. I am present.
Councilmember Brooks.
Good morning, Madam Chair and colleagues. I am present.
Good morning.
Councilmember Driscoll.
Good morning, Madam Chair and colleagues. I am present.
Good morning, all. And I'd also like to acknowledge Councilmember Phillips, who is joining us for this hearing. Good morning, Councilmember Phillips.
Good morning, Councilmember and colleagues. I'm present. Thanks a lot for having me.
Wonderful. Thank you. A quorum of the committee has been established, and this hearing is now called to order. This is the public hearing of the Committee on Housing, Neighborhood Development, and the Homeless regarding resolution number 220819. Ms. Sherles, will you please read the title of the legislation?
Resolution number 220918, authorizing the City Council Committee on Housing, Neighborhood Development, and the Homeless to hold public hearings examining MV Realty of Pennsylvania LLC and their Homeowner Benefits Agreement and the impact that these agreements may have on Philadelphia homeowners.
Before we begin to hear testimony from the witnesses we have for today, everyone who has been invited to the meeting to testify should be aware that this public hearing is being recorded. Because the hearing is public, participants and viewers have no reasonable expectation of privacy. By continuing to be in the meeting, you are consenting to being recorded. Additionally, prior to recognizing members for the questions or comments they have for witnesses, I will note for the record at this time that we will use the chat feature available in Microsoft Teams to allow members to signify that they wish to be recognized. In order to comply with the Sunshine Act, the chat feature must only be used for this purpose. Before we begin, I'd like to make a few remarks about the legislation before this committee today. Recently, Council President Clark and his staff brought it to Council's attention that there was a real estate company under fire for deceptive practices that are negatively impacting homeowners in our city, specifically Black and Brown homeowners. The homeowners who are here to testify today entered into homeowner benefit agreements with MV Realty and unknowingly signed contracts with 40-year terms, providing the company with exclusive rights for the opportunity to sell the home, with the homeowner receiving a mere few $100s as compensation. To enforce these rights, MV Realty recorded mortgages against the homes, unbeknownst to the homeowners. We're here today because these Philadelphians feel like they've been deceived, and it is our job as elected officials to protect our most vulnerable residents from practices that seek to deprive them of their homeownership rights and their familial wealth. Just this morning, the Pennsylvania Attorney General's office filed suit against MV Realty for deceptive practices, alleging that MV Realty has been recording mortgages on consumers' homes without their knowledge. With more than 500 mortgages recorded in just 2 years, we must take a thorough look into MV Realty and its practices to ensure that our residents are not being exploited. I'd like to thank Council President Darrell Clark for calling this hearing. Are there any other members of the committee that would like to give any opening remarks?
Madam Chair, this is Mark Squilla. I just want to thank you and all members of the committee, because this is such an important part of what we see out there of how people are being taken advantage of. And I also want to thank the Attorney General's office. I think the message today, that the press release that we saw, lets us know how serious of a matter this is and what it does to our residents here in the city of Philadelphia. And I really appreciate you bringing this to light and looking forward to making sure the people who do this are held accountable. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Councilmember Phillips, do you have any comments?
No, not at this time, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I think that we are going to show a video about MV Realty. Are we ready for that? Tech staff?
We'll need a minute. We just received the link, Madam Chair.
Okay. Should we move on to testimony while we get the technology together?
Yes, please.
Okay, very good. Ms. Sherrills, will you please call the first panel or witness we have to testify this morning?
Carrie Smith, Timothy Calhoun, Rodney Thomas, and Felicia Pierce.
Wonderful. Carrie Smith, are you there and connected?
I am. Can you hear me?
Yes, please state your name for the record and proceed with your testimony.
Great. Thank you, Chair Gauthier and members of the committee about the opportunity to testify about the troubling practices of MV Realty and the impact on our clients. My name is Carrie Smith, and I'm an attorney with the Homeownership and Consumer Rights Unit at Community Legal Services. As Council knows, CLS provides free legal services to low-income Philadelphians on a range of civil matters, and we dedicate substantial resources to saving and protecting homes of low-income individuals and families in Philly. Earlier this year, several homeowners sought legal help from CLS, believing they had fallen victim to a deed theft scam. They had received a notice from the Philadelphia Department of Records informing them that a document had been recorded against their property, and they feared that someone had created a fraudulent deed transferring the ownership of their home. We investigated and discovered a different kind of a scam. A real estate company by the name of MV Realty is running a predatory home equity stripping scheme, tricking homeowners into giving up thousands of dollars of their most valuable asset, their home. The company promises homeowners a few $100s of quick and easy cash, but then traps them into a mortgage through which they'll be paying thousands for any transfer of their home over the next 40 years. The scheme's operating in at least 33 states, flourishing here in Philadelphia, where the company has recorded over 500 mortgages in the last 2 years, the vast majority of which are in neighborhoods with high concentrations of Black and brown homeowners. Based on our clients' experiences, these mortgages are the result of unfair and deceptive practices. Much like the predatory lenders of the subprime mortgage crisis MV Realty engages in aggressive and abusive tactics designed to extract wealth from Philadelphia homeowners, especially black and brown homeowners. Here's how the operation works. Essentially, they lure homeowners into the scheme with a promise of $300 to $5,000 in cash, a cash payment through a loan alternative program. Homeowners report receiving telemarketing calls, social media advertisements, even knocks on their door from representatives MV Realty peddling the Homeowner Benefit Program. It offers quick cash that they can use for home repairs or other necessities. And company representatives tell homeowners that the cash is a gift that doesn't need to be repaid and that they're only required to use MV Realty as their real estate agent should they choose to sell their home in the future. And then they reassure and emphasize to homeowners that they're under no obligation to sell. They then quickly send a notary to the homeowner to sign paperwork to finalize the deal. They typically will send a notary to the customer's home to sign, often the same day or the day after the first contact. And clients have told us that they were really rushed through that process without any explanation of the documents, and the notary did not leave them with a copy of the paperwork they signed. Some clients later received a copy of the paperwork in the mail. Others had to ask multiple times for the documents that they had signed. Some have never received copies of their documents. And the terms of the contract are very complex, and they go well beyond simply having to use the company as a real estate agent if the homeowner lists their property for sale. The contract is called the Homeowner Benefit Agreement. It does provide MV Realty with the exclusive right to serve as a listing agent for the home for 40 years. That's a term that grossly exceeds the 1-year maximum term for exclusive listing agreements under Pennsylvania law. But that's not all. The agreement also requires homeowners to pay a fee of at least 3% of the home's market value, as determined by MV Realty, for any transfer of their property during the 40-year contract, regardless of whether MV Realty had any role in the transfer. So that would include losing their home through foreclosure, listing the property for sale on their own or through another agent, or even passing the property through death. In addition, MV Realty requires homeowners to sign a mortgage to put their home up as a guarantee for any mortgage, any money due under the Homeowner Benefit Agreement. And they record that mortgage as a lien against the home at the Philadelphia Department of Records. All across the Commonwealth, homeowners have complained that they were really blindsided by the mortgage recorded on their homes. They had no idea the mortgage was among the set of documents the notary brought to their home to sign. I myself have spoken with a dozen homeowners in Philadelphia who fell victim to the scheme. None of them understood that they were signing a mortgage that would be recorded against their home. And none of them understood that they'd have to pay MV Realty thousands of dollars in fees for any transfer of the ownership of their home, even if the company had nothing to do with it. And none of them understood that they were agreeing to a 40-year contract. When they learned of the documents they had signed, they were shocked, angry, and concerned about the impact of the mortgage on their homes. And several of those homeowners are ready to share their stories today, share their stories with the committee so they can warn homeowners about the scheme and highlight the need for swift action against the company, which we are all thrilled. We had a little celebration in here earlier when we learned that the Attorney General's office filed a lawsuit today. So one of the homeowners who's going to share his story I'd like to introduce to the committee. His name is Timothy Calhoun.
Good morning, everyone. I want to thank the committee for the opportunity to testify today. I'll be reading my statement so I won't leave anything out.
Mr. Calhoun, just please state your name for the record before you get into your statement.
Good morning again. My name is Timothy Calhoun.
Good morning. Thank you for joining us. You can proceed.
Thank you for having me. Should I begin now? In January of this year, an advertisement from MV Realty Homeowner Benefit Agreement popped up on my social media feed. I called the company to learn more. They promised me $640 if I agreed to use them as my real estate agent if I decided to sell my home, and that was it. They told me there would be I'll be under no obligation to sell my home, but if I did choose to put it on the market, I would have to give them the first chance to sell it. They told me if they were unable to find a buyer within 6 months, then the contract would be over. That turned out to be a lie. But I didn't know that when MV Realty sent someone to my house with documents for me to sign, he did not leave me with copies of the papers. I had to keep calling MV Realty to get copies several times. The documents later arrived. I learned through a notice from the City of Philadelphia Department of Records that a mortgage was recorded on my home. I was shocked. They never told me that I was signing a mortgage. If I had known that I was going to put a mortgage on my house, I would have never have signed the agreement. That word never even came up in all the conversations that I had with these people. I went to the lawyers at CLS because I know that they're for the community, and learned from that meeting that the company overestimated the value of my property to $213,000, where Redfin has it listed at $87,000, which becomes a part of the $6,399 that they want from me if I was to make any move with my property. I don't want to sell my home, but I do not want to be in this bad deal either. I asked MV Realty to cancel the contract and take the mortgage off my house. I've returned the money they paid me. I'm now waiting to hear their response. Based on how they responded to other homeowners, I don't think they're going to do the right thing. But I hope that the City of Philadelphia and the State of Pennsylvania Attorney General's office will shut these people down so they can stop trying to take advantage of people who they think are stupid. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm so sorry that this is happening to you, and I thank you for bravely coming forward to share your story. Do we have Rodney Thomas with us?
Yes.
Mr. Thomas, can you state your name for the record and proceed with your testimony?
Yes, my name is Rodney Thomas.
And we're very thankful for both homeowners who are sharing their story with us today. MV Realty doesn't just have unfair substantive terms in their contract. The contract is also procedurally one-sided as well. It requires homeowners to give up their right to sue the company in court and participate in a class action. But MV Realty can actually sue consumers in court to enforce their agreement, and they actually do that here in Philadelphia, and Mr. Thomas is one of those homeowners who were sued, and he's going to share the experience with us today. Mr. Thomas, can you tell us a little bit about your experience with MB Realty, how you first came to hear about them?
Yes, well, I'm a big sweepstake fan. I always do the the sweepstake thing you get in the mail. So I just happened to be going through my mail, and I saw a check. So I immediately opened it up to see what kind of check this is and who it's from. And it was from MV Realty, and it says, call this number, you understand, and we can activate this check. Once I called the number, they were talking to me about someone coming out to see me. Before activating the check, I had to sign some papers. And I said, well, what am I signing for? And they said, well, you're signing papers in order to receive the check for $365. And it gives us first, and it's also going to give us first rights to sell your property. I said, oh, okay, well, there is no obligation in this, and they told me no. And the next thing I know, I'm receiving a letter telling me about a mortgage on my property.
They didn't tell you when you signed the agreement about the mortgage?
No, they told me nothing about any type of agreement as into a mortgage or a lien being put on my property, and I have both of them on my property at this time. And
Mr. Thomas, I know that you then shortly after that had a health crisis.
Yes, shortly after that I had congestive heart failure. I ended up in the hospital for 2 months, and while I was laying there, I decided that I didn't want to deal with the problem of having a property anymore. Maybe I'm moving one of these senior citizen places. And I was talking to one of the nurses, and she referred me to a real estate agent, not remembering, not even thinking about that I had a deal with MV Realty, that I went on and had this person go ahead and list my property for sale. which in 2 weeks, a week to 2 weeks after she listed my property, I received a visit from the courts where I was being served a notice to be taken to court, and I was being sued for going with another realty to sell my property. So
And what did you have to do with the sale of your home?
I had a sale for my home of $120,000 as is, and I was getting ready to get that close. I was getting ready to start closure on that when I received a notice of being taken to court for listing my property with a different real estate agent than MB Realty.
So what did you do?
So I pulled everything off. I canceled out on my deal to sell the property because I didn't know what I was up against. I didn't want to sell my property, and I ended up with nothing from it. So I just backed out of everything, and I came down here to CLS. I got it backwards here, I'm sorry. And I asked for help, because I didn't know what else to do. My mother had left this property to me on her deathbed, and actually it's like a dream, but the dream was that I bought the house for her when I was 14 through a car accident. And then the house becomes mine again, and then to have someone just come and try and take everything from me, and I really don't know what to do. So I came down here to CLS, and they've been helping me through this very, very well. Some days I've been running, I want to just give up and, let them do what they're going to do. And once I pay, it's over with, and I've even thought of letting them going to them and say, all right, give me $120,000 and sell this property and bring me back $120,000 because that's what you cost me to lose for $6,000. And, it's been a hard time for me, and
What would you like to see have happen?
I would like to see them pay for this. I would like to see them being taken out because, I'm a poor black man who's trying to survive. You understand? And I don't bother anybody. Even with my heart condition, I still get up and go to work every day. And I just want my home back. They took my home from me. They got me in a situation. I would like to get my home back.
Thank you so much, both of you, for sharing your stories today. This is really a predatory practice, MV Realty is clearly aggressively pursuing homeowners for any fees due under their contract. But another homeowner who's with us today remotely, Felicia Pierce, she reports that the company is not as aggressive in actually helping somebody sell their home once you try to put it on the market. And she's here to share her story about that process.
Ms. Pierce, are you here and connected? Felicia Pierce? Oh, I think you're on mute.
I'm here. Felicia
There
Pierce.
you go. Wonderful. Please proceed with your testimony.
Okay. I have mine written down because I forget a lot. I just wanted to thank the committee for bringing this to the attention of the Philadelphia residents and for stepping in, Community Legal Service for stepping in and helping us. For this is definitely a predatory company. We didn't know what we was up against. I worked hard to get my house. I had 3 girls. I didn't want them renting. I didn't like renting. So I decided to save money. I saved $31,000 to buy this house. I bought this house for me and my kids. We've been in this house for 27 years. And then I had a leak because I had got injured on my job, so they retired me, and my income is Social Security disability. So Social Security disability don't always have money in it for expenses, house repairs. So I got caught in a jam. My bathroom started leaking, and I had some money, but I didn't have enough money to get the bathroom done. So a friend referred me to this company saying that they would allow me to get a certain amount of money to just to lock me in to sell my property, which I thought was interesting. and it would help me. So I went on with that. So I'm going to read my statement now. In April of last year, MV Realty came to my house to sign me up for the homeowner benefit. They offered me $465 if I agreed to use them as my real estate agent. I was planning on selling my home anyway because I'm injured. I have a lot of injuries and I can no longer adapt to my house, like going upstairs to the bathroom. I only have one bathroom. It was getting complicated. And my injuries are so bad where one time I had to sleep on my couch for a whole month. So that's when I made that decision to sell this house. So when I locked into this agreement, I already knew I was going to sell my house. So I didn't find this no problem. And I told them, I said, I would do this, but I'm going to sell the house in the next few months anyway. So that was okay with me. I planned on putting my home on the market within the year and needed the money to repair the leak in my bathroom. I understood I would have to pay them a commission for selling my home, but I did not understand that I would be locked into paying them a fee for the next 40 years. I'm a very detail-oriented person. I read that contract from beginning to end, and there, I never saw nothing about a 40-year contract. I would never lock my hard-earned money working for that house to get that house for $465 to be locked in for no 40 years. I could have went to a family member and borrowed the money that I needed, but my independence wouldn't allow me to do that. I went this route. But I would never lock myself in for no 40-year agreement. That's just not me. So, but I did understand that I would be paying into locking them a fee for the next. I didn't understand that I would be paying them a fee for the next 40 years. No matter how poor a job they did with selling my house, I also did not understand that they were going to record a mortgage lien on my home. They leave you with no hard copies. I had to call for my hard copy, and she didn't send it to me through the mail. She sent it through me to the email. And it's a rush process. They don't give you time to think. They don't leave you nothing so you can read over it and figure out if this is really what you want to do. I didn't even get no documentation to back out once I locked myself in. They don't offer me that either. So it's definitely a rush process. It's a predatory, to me, I really believe that this is a predatory company. And I'm so grateful that y'all going after them. And my prayer was for somebody to shut them down. I'm praying that this happens now. And they talk to you on the phone, then they send someone out to your house the next day. It's immediately. They don't give you time to think. That's how you know it's predatory. They don't give you time to think or reconsider your decision. You don't have a chance to reconsider. A few months later, I put my home up for sale using MV Realtor as my real estate agent. Denise Rossetti, my agent, met me at the house and took pictures for marketing. She agreed that my house should be listed for $235,000. It quickly became clear to me that Denise was not making her best efforts to sell my home. The quality of the photos that she had taken were blurry. You could not see the beauty of my home through those pictures. I was very upset at that, and I asked her to repost some other pictures that I sent her that was very clear. She told me they wasn't professional. She wasn't going to use them. She didn't use them. So she refused to use the ones that I sent, and just 2 weeks after listing in a home for sale, which she agreed that it was worth $235,000, she suggested that I reduce the price by $70,000. That's what triggered me. You know, when you list a house, they usually tell you if it's too much, they go take it down by $5,000, $10,000. $70,000 is a big drop. So that's what triggered me. I contacted CL Community Legal Services, and I started this part. It said it made no sense to me. I said it made no sense that she would try to drop this price by such a huge amount 2 weeks later. Denise also made it difficult to prepare for showing my house. She would never give me advance. If she needed to show my house, it was that day, and it was through email, which I'm not an email checker. And I kept telling her to call me or text me when you needed to show the house. She would never do it. She continued to send it through the email. So no one that was ever able to get into my house. Denise also because she wouldn't give me advance notice. Shortly after the house came off the market, when the contract was up after 6 months of trying to sell it, which I believe she didn't try to sell it. I was contacted by another realtor agent who confirmed my fears. She said when my house was listed for sale, she had an interested buyer for the original price, cash money. But she couldn't get an appointment to see the home through Denise. At that point, I discovered that I was locked into a 40-year agreement with MV Realty because that realtor told me that if my contract had ended, I should be able to use another realtor. But I contact CLS, and that's when I was told that I was in this 40-year contract. No way would I enter into a 40-year contract for $465. I had received notification from Philadelphia Department of Records that MV Realty had filed a mortgage against my property. I was shocked to learn about that lien. I am sad, upset the way I have been treated and handled. I'm disabled and I needed to leave this house to get a more appropriate house for my body. But MV Realty trapped me into the long-term contract that has prevented me from selling my home when the house prices were higher. I couldn't even get the money from the seller's market. She made me miss that too. My house went from 235, and after the contract, it went down to 147,000. That's a lot of money that I was missing. I don't want to use MV Realty as my real estate agent. I would love to get out of this contract and use someone else to sell my house. I don't feel like the way they predator came against me, I don't want them to make money off of my property. I feel like I was set up and that this system was not for my good. It was for my bad. They didn't tell me the full truth about the contract, and I didn't act in my best interest. I also pray for God to fix this. I believe today God is fixing this.
Thank you so much to all of you. I'm so sorry that, after working so hard to buy your homes and keeping your homes up and just trying to find ways to reinvest, that you were taken advantage of by such an unscrupulous company. And I'm also sorry that you've had to deal with this at the same time that you've had to deal with various health challenges and just the struggles of everyday life. We appreciate, though, you coming forward to share your stories. I have questions maybe for Carrie about this company. Where are they based? When did they start? And who owns this company?
Sure. So MV Realty appears to be operating in 33 states. Their headquarters is in Florida, and there are 3 individuals who appear to be sort of leading the scheme. The Florida Attorney General's office sued not only the company, but those individuals. And we are, again, like I said, we really were like celebrating in here before the hearing started when we got the great news that the Attorney General's office has taken action against them as well.
And if we are successful, if the Attorney General is successful, will that wind up with these homeowners being made whole?
I think a successful resolution here is for all of the homeowners who have been scammed and tricked into putting up their home and to being tricked into a mortgage. Those mortgages need to come off the property. People who have lost the opportunity to sell their homes need to be compensated. And we need to make sure that this doesn't happen to anybody else.
Absolutely. I want to acknowledge the presence of Councilmember Bass in the hearing. Good morning, Councilmember Bass.
Good morning, Madam Chair. I am down with the flu, but I am present.
Oh no, I'm so sorry to hear that you're sick. I hope you feel better soon.
Thank you. This is a very important hearing, and I want Felicia to know I just heard your comments, and I'm just appalled by the treatment that you've received. It's absolutely unacceptable.
Mm-hmm. Are there any other members of the committee or council members who are joining us who want to ask any questions of this panel or make comments? Okay. Council support, are we ready to show the video? Is council support on? Okay, I'm going to move us along. Ms. Sherrills, will you please call the next panel to testify?
Ira Goldstein and Mitchell Little.
Okay. Ira Goldstein, please state your name for the record and proceed with your testimony.
Good morning. My name is Ira Goldstein. I'm going to need to share my screen if that's possible.
It should be, do you see a button where you can share?
Yes. Great. Hopefully you all can see my screen at this point. So again, good morning. My name is Ira Goldstein, and I'm with an organization in Philadelphia called Reinvestment Fund. I want to thank you, Chair Gauthier and Co-Chair Jones, for doing this hearing today. I think it's super important to be able to get the word out about what is happening with this. It's wonderful that the city administration, including the Recorder of Deeds, has taken some affirmative steps to help make it possible to understand what this firm is doing to the homeowners of Pennsylvania. And we are pleased to be able to help out in our way to get some of these activities curtailed. We are a lending institution, but for the record, we are a nonprofit lending institution here in Philadelphia, and we don't do individual mortgages for people getting homes, but we do support the creation of affordable housing and child care centers and arts and culture space and all the kinds of things that communities need to be vital, healthy, and equitable places. I think that our guest this morning did an extraordinary job, as does the Pennsylvania Attorney General and the Florida Attorney General in their lawsuit, articulating what it is that's problematic about this. But what I would like to say is that this firm, this MV Realty, the way they go about their business, it's really sort of a set of behaviors that shares many of the same features of the predatory lending practices of over a decade ago. The business offers something, a product that it's attractive, particularly attractive to people who have financial needs and limited access to other financial alternatives. There's an element of pressure. There's an element of deception. You heard discussion about having a mortgage recorded, but not knowing that there was a mortgage at the time, or not seeing all the documents or not getting copies of the documents. So there's an element of deception. There's a damaging element, as you all heard from the homeowners who testified this morning. And I think it's also the case that, like much of the predatory lending of a decade ago and other forms of lending and credit abuse in Philadelphia and across the country, there is a targeted element to it too, and there's a targeted element that is focused on particularly people and neighborhoods of color. The deceptive, again, just to sort of drive home the point, they say it's not a mortgage, but here is a copy of their document. It says mortgage on it. So on the one hand, they say it's not a mortgage. They record a document that's a mortgage. They satisfy a document that's a mortgage. They refer to the satisfaction, they refer in the satisfaction to a loan and a debt secured by a mortgage. It seems like you can't have it both ways. Again, some of the more problematic features are the fact that you're giving up a huge stake in your largest financial asset being your home for just a couple of $100s. It's a 40-year exclusive right, which really exceeds any reasonable term. The early termination firms are severe. They're typically, it seems, about 10 times the amount of money that people actually receive. We don't know how it is that they come to the amounts that they offer people and how it is they come to the amounts that are recorded as the liens, but they're the ones that we've been able to see, it seems like about 10 times as much at least. They say it's not a loan, but it is, as Attorney Smith from the CLS group testified. There are features of it that are problematic, like a binding arbitration clause, a waiver of class action relief. And then, I think that it's reasonable to think if these agreements are breached, if you will, in a short amount of time, if these are indeed mortgages, the effective annual interest rate could be 40, 50, 60%. So if there's a breach, if somebody got $400 and it owes $4,000 and it's breached in the third or fourth, fifth year, that's effectively like a mortgage with an interest rate that is well beyond the state's usury ceilings. So as we sort of get into that piece of targeting, which is what I mentioned earlier, Philadelphia neighborhoods and the residents of our neighborhoods have struggled for decades with either too little access to credit or too much access to bad credit. And I think it was Malcolm X who was quoted as saying racism is like a Cadillac because they make a new model every year. I think what you're seeing is that this is the 2022 model, or maybe it's the 2023 model, as they're out already. So let's see how. So this is a map of Philadelphia. It is the original redlining map showing that large swaths of North Philadelphia, West Philadelphia, and South Philadelphia, south of Center City, were redlined. In other words, they were deemed not worthy of receiving credit. Those decisions were made by the federal government based on the race of the people that lived there, the religion of the people, perhaps the mixture of the races and religions of people who lived in these places. They didn't particularly care for areas that had mixed races. But I also want to draw your attention to what I guess is in part, the Ninth Council District and Councilmember Bass's district up here, that in the 1930s, that was not a redlined area. In fact, it was considered a pretty desirable area from the perspective of making credit available. But here you're seeing a series of maps that show Philadelphia each decade from 1940 through 1980, each map showing the racial composition. The more darkly shaded areas are areas that have a higher share of the minority population, in this instance, Black and Hispanic combined. You'll notice that in those periods, those early maps, the area inside the blue box did not have a significant Black population. However, owing to blockbusting and other kinds of practices, you saw a significant growth in the Black population up in the northwest of Philadelphia. And this is important because it's one thing to say that there is a sort of a perpetual impact of redlining, but it's not only redlining that sets the future path for a neighborhood. There are other practices that intervene over time. One of those practices we took a look at on behalf of council was reverse mortgages. And those you'll recall are mortgages that are pitched with, we pay you to stay in your home. That said, each one of those green dots at the time we looked at it was a reverse mortgage that went to foreclosure. The size of the dot represents the size of the mortgage. You'll notice that there is a pretty substantial racial concentration in the Black and Hispanic neighborhoods of Philadelphia. So this was one such feature. Another such feature is contemporary mortgage denials. You're looking at the freshest mortgage data that exists. And the areas that are shaded in the darker brown on this map are areas that had higher denial rates. The areas that have blue around them are areas that are over 50% Black, and areas with the purple cross hatching are over 25% Hispanic. You'll notice the denial rates are higher in these places. This is one of the elements that sets up, as I articulated, the sort of the predatory features, the fact that it's attractive to people who don't necessarily have a ton of different alternatives. Credit does not, to this day, flow evenly across the city's landscape. And these are MV's agreements. In this instance, what we've done for your convenience is to show you with a green dot where those agreements are, and then show you the boundaries of your council districts. And you'll see that they really are in all council districts in Philadelphia in different densities for sure, but they are. The map is shaded, though, again, where the darker shades of brown are places that have a higher concentration of Black people. The crosshatched areas are places where there is a substantial Hispanic population, and there is an undisputable concentration of these MV benefit agreements or recorded mortgages in the Black population, in the Black neighborhoods and Hispanic neighborhoods of Philadelphia. Just to give you a sense as to where they're concentrated, they really are highly concentrated in that 9th Council District. You see the map, you can see why. You see why those numbers look the way they do. But they are really across the entirety of the city. Now, what we did here is we don't know with certainty from a recorded mortgage the race or ethnicity of the person who got it. However, the federal government uses an algorithm to take one's name and one's geographic location and estimate a race or ethnicity of the person that got the product. They use this tool in civil rights examinations of banks and financial institutions. On this chart, you're looking at the city of Philadelphia. The gray bars represent the percentage of homeowners that are of the given race or ethnicity. So, for example, 37% of Philadelphia homeowners are Black, 45% are white. However, the orange bars tells you what percentage of MV Realty mortgages we estimate go to homeowners of that given race. So while 37% of Philadelphia's homeowners are Black, 69% we estimate of MV Realty loans go to Black people. So there is the geographic disproportionality that you saw on the map, but there is also the individual disproportionality of it. This is Delaware County. We have multiple counties, again, thanks to Mr. Leonard's affirmative outreach to his colleagues, the recorders of deed around the Commonwealth. In this instance, Delaware County has 14% of their homeowners are Black. However, 42% of MV Realty mortgages, we believe, are estimated to have gone to Black homeowners. So again, that element of disproportionate targeting to people of color. This is a table version of it. What we do is in the top portion of the table, if you read across, you'll see a county, and these are the suburban counties plus of Philadelphia, plus Lancaster County. You'll see the percentage of mortgages that go to each of the different racial and ethnic groupings in the middle panel. You will see the percentage that that are homeowners of each of those racial and ethnic groupings, and in the bottom panel, the disparity. In every place you see that we have data for, the percentage of MV Realty beneficiaries compared to homeowners is lower for white and higher for Black and Hispanic families. Every single place that we've looked. And we have more. We haven't yet had an opportunity to analyze them. We will not be able to do the individual estimation in all the places for which we have the records, but we will do as much as we can going forward. What will we do to support you and all the extraordinary people in Philadelphia's consumer protection community? Best in the country, I think. We will continue to work with the Recorder of Deeds to get the data from his colleagues around the Commonwealth and analyze and table those data so you all have accurate and the best information that you could have about who's being impacted by this. We would like to be able to be an active supporter of law enforcement and the consumer protection organizations, as well as, by the way, the fair housing organizations. Sometimes people refer to as the private attorneys general. They don't act with the color of law enforcement, but they are doing law enforcement functions to focus on the fair housing implications of what's being done here. Again, you know, I'd like to sort of come back to that piece that I said about the features of predatory and the fact that it's targeted. You know, among the things that we learned during that period is a lot of the companies that were doing that work did so in a targeted way, and they were essentially putting poison in the ground. And what you need to be able to do is somehow sort of take out that poison and put people back into a position where they're in a good state. We want to be able to support you and the administration and the legal services and the fair housing organizations in that effort. And we think a big piece of it, you all have taken a huge, important first step with the public education aspect of what you're doing. You're letting people know that this is out there, not to be, to go into these transactions if they do with their eyes wide open. Lastly, these are the places, this little table down at the bottom of this slide, these are the places for which we have data. Allegheny County, 144 of these, fewer than Philadelphia County, but the most of the counties that we've also seen. But in Montgomery County, which is one of our, obviously our sort of neighboring counties, 90 of them. These are proliferating with great great speed. And again, I applaud you for taking this affirmative effort to make the public aware. And with this, I will stop sharing my screen and thank you for your time. I'd also, excuse me, before I end, I want to make sure that I give gratitude to my teammates, Colin Whitig and Marcy Monaco Vavrick, who helped gather these data together and tabulate them and map them for us. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ira, for sharing all of this, very useful data. As it relates to the quote that you shared, I want to declare affirmatively that we are issuing a recall on the 2023 model of racism, and then we are going to discontinue the line. So we look forward to working with you on that. I think we are ready with our video. So I'm going to break things up a little bit. We'll show our video, then we'll go forward with the rest of this panel and questions. Modesto.
Ready?
Can we fix the sound?
There's no sound.
Okay, I think maybe that was wishful thinking. We could just go back to the panel. We could stop the video. I think everybody gets the point anyway. We've heard a lot of very impactful testimony. So Mitch Little, are you there and connected?
Yes, I am. Good morning. Can you hear me?
Good morning. Please state your name for the record and proceed with your testimony.
Mitch Little for the record. Good morning, Councilperson Gautier and Vice Chair Jones. Again, my name is Mitch Little, Executive Director of the Office of Community Empowerment and Opportunity. CEO is the city's community action agency, and our mission is to provide leadership on issues of economic justice by advancing racial equity and inclusive growth to make sure that all Philadelphians have an opportunity to share in the city's prosperous future. I certainly want to give a shout out today to the AG's office for their action today and certainly the witnesses that we heard from earlier, and sharing your accounts, and taking that brave action against this sort of predatory action. You are not alone. We are with you. We at CEO are unfortunately not surprised when we see schemes like the ones that you've testified to today in regards to MV Realty's actions. We all understand that one of the great threats to economic mobility for our communities is wealth extraction. We also understand that wealth sort of happens through investment over time, and this activity really hits at the center of that. Ta-Nehisi Coates talks about plunder, and this is an act of plunder, right? And an opportunity for actors such as MV Realty to see folks struggling along, trying to make it, trying to participate in the American dream and have available all the opportunities. And as wealth sort of continues to accumulate and creep along over time, this is just another way, another actor that an entity sees oftentimes Black and brown communities and people is just opportunity to enrich themselves through sort of unscrupulous behaviors. And so we saw it with predatory lending, sort of what Ira spoke to, and check cashers and alternative financial products. And we're seeing it here again today. Folks know that CEO cares deeply about keeping people away from wealth stripping schemes like this, which is why we worked with Mayor Kenney to launch the Consumer Financial Protection Task Force in May of 2022. Our efforts were launched by the mayor's executive order. The task force is co-chaired by myself and City Solicitor Diana Cortez and City Treasurer Jacqueline Dunn. Its members also include consumer protection professionals like our friend Carrie, who's done a phenomenal job, and others from the local legal advocacy community, as well as including the District Attorney's Office, the Office of Attorney General. And the purpose of the task force is to coordinate on enforcement, outreach, legislative efforts to protect Philadelphians from consumer financial threats. So we've done some work in regards to education. There's a link on our Consumer Financial Protection Task Force page. We'll put that in the chat. For those who are watching who don't have access to the chat, the address is www.phila.gov/ that's the slash that the top leans to the right, consumer and dash protection. www.phila.gov/ consumer protection. There you'll find general information about the task force and how to file a consumer complaint. You'll see the witness as examples about how to fight back. And the only way, or one of the best ways to fight back, is to share your information. Let us understand your complaint so that we can get specifics on the actions of MV Realty. The task force began working on MV Realty thanks to Carrie and bringing it to our attention. We've been talking about this since our first meeting. In the ensuing months, the task force has monitored the scheme, has grown and worked collaboratively to identify all avenues that can be taken to protect property owners. Some of our steps include preparing material to warn the public, to educate, which can be found on our website, including basic information about MV Realty that consumers should know, and how to file a complaint with the Attorney General. The Attorney General Office encourages consumers who have been adversely affected to file complaints. That's what's really going to help strengthen our understanding of how big and how bad this problem is, and also strengthen the actions of the Attorney General. We also saw a partnership with the Department of Planning and Development. Shout out to Kathy Califano and her collaboration and leadership. The task force is also holding 3 information sessions. The first will be a virtual session on December 19th at 6 p.m. There will be information on the website and a link to register. In January, we'll hold 2 in-person information sessions, one in North Philly, one in West Philly. Dates, times, and locations will be announced soon. The task force will continue to work collaboratively to identify any enforcement legislative solutions that will further curtail practices like that of MV Realty. And we urge everyone to make themselves and others aware of the schemes so that it can be avoided. We applaud council and council president for the interest in this issue, your proactive activity. Sometimes folks say that the city doesn't act quick enough. Sometimes we hear that from our external partners. Sometimes we hear that there's little or no collaboration amongst internal and external actors. Sometimes we hear that the voices of community and community members are muted. And today shows an example of all those things to be untrue. In days past where city and entities and organizations, government, local and federal, have been a part of this wealth stripping activity, we stand here today united, combat these activities and protect the futures of our most vulnerable Philadelphians. So thank you for your partnership. Thank you for allowing me to participate today. We look to see consumers whole and protected and reduce how folks are jeopardized by this deceptive activity. This concludes my testimony today, and I'm available to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mitch, for being here today, but also for your work protecting residents from these type of schemes. And thanks also for sharing the information about the upcoming info sessions. I want to recognize that Councilmember Lozada is also in the hearing. Good morning, Councilmember. And I'd like to ask if any of the committee members or any other council members who are joining us have questions or comments for this panel. I have a question for Mr. Goldstein. We saw that there were pretty big disparities around MB Realty's activities in given areas of the city. I do understand that there's a proliferation of this scheme in Black and Brown neighborhoods, but what does it mean when we see, for instance, in the 9th Councilmanic District that 23% of their mortgages are there? What does that say anything about there being particularly vulnerable homeowners there, or does that mean that they've just spent a lot of time there? What do you think that means?
Yeah, I can't answer with certainty, but I believe that it's reflective of the fact that there is vulnerability there, and that, you know, this is the kind of attractive nuisance, if you will, that once one person gets it and before they realize it's a problem and then they tell their friends about it and the like, you know, then they get it and then it goes from there. But there is that 9th Council District has this, you know, this set of features, like there's a lot of homeowners there. There's value in those homes. There's a significant Black population up there. And there is a population for whom, you know, incomes are decent, but not extraordinarily, like Chestnut Hill. And so a pitch that would put $500, $700, $800 in somebody's hands is way more amenable to that population than, you know, a Washington Square population, let's say.
Yeah. And is there anything in this, and I guess this is for anybody, you know, who testified, is there anything in this that should provide direction to city council or the admin about what homeowners are looking for? Are people signing onto this because they need more money to invest in the upkeep and repair of their homes? Are they signing onto this because they need more sort of basic income? What should we take as a policy lesson from this? And what indicators should we be looking at to determine, what these homeowners are truly looking for that the city could maybe help with?
Hi, Carrie Smith from Community Legal Services. That's a great question. I think it's really a confluence of factors, right? I think we need to make sure that there are good jobs in Philadelphia that pay a living wage so people are less vulnerable to deceptive sales pitches. Many of the homeowners that I've spoken with really have a need for home repairs. And I think, the city has done a tremendous job of promoting the home repair programs that exist. And through the Consumer Financial Protection Task Force, one of the set of materials that we're creating to warn people about MB Realty is talking about the alternatives. The fact that at the state level we have the home repairs legislation, extraordinary new development coming through, those will all present, I think, new opportunities. And I think really what we're learning is that consumer protection is really kind of the foundation of making sure that we preserve people's income and wealth. We can have all these programs, we can have good wages, we can try to work to eliminate and reduce poverty, but if we don't have strong rules in place to prevent predators from coming in and stealing those, we're never going to make the gains that we need. And so we really appreciate council for holding this hearing today to kind of highlight the problem so we can get the word out, and then thinking through with us strategically what additional steps do we need to protect people from the next scheme. I appreciate the recall. I love that. So we're recalling this one, and then let's work together to make sure that that next new scheme doesn't happen.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for that.
Madam
Okay.
Chair, I can answer the question a little differently
Sure,
as
thank
it
you so
relates
much.
to the work of CEO. I think that one of the issues here is like the accumulation of debt, right? When folks see something like this, they see a financial obligation or burden that they have to deal with in already a challenging life. We heard about sort of challenging priorities. We heard about health challenges, right? There's a lot that folks have to deal with, and just another sort of institution that's the formal paperwork that comes in your house, and you have to figure out how to manage that. And so I think that we have to figure out ways in which we are understanding sort of debt and how it impacts individuals and families, and parse out what some of that is real debt, and sometimes we do a little bit more searching and we see that there's predatory action there, and there's interventions that we can discover. And so that's some of the work that we are concentrating on. I think, as you know, like access to benefits and available options to, again, one reduced amount of debt reduction is the reduced amount of money that's going out of the household. The benefit access is to really make sure that folks are accessing all the supports that are available to them. But we were out in Southwest Philly at Catholic Social Services yesterday, and we heard from the staff there, one of our Benephilly sites, who talked about folks on fixed income, and rising prices of rental units. A person on fixed income bringing home $800 a month, renting a room at $800, leaving only $30-something left, right? And then how do we create the right amount of benefits for that person to help support that person without that person falling off the benefit cliff, right? And so that's certainly another issue. And this issue around small dollar amounts and how meaningful they could be at the right time if folks had the ability to make choices about what they saw as their priority and their most immediate need. And so this is an example of what sort of unrestricted small dollar amounts could be helpful to individuals and their families. And we see examples of that all over the country. Universal basic income examples all over the country, and we're glad to be a part of some pilots here locally because we understand the need of Philadelphians in that way. So thank you.
I would agree with you, and thank you so much for those comments. So that concludes panel testimony for this resolution. We'll now begin hearing from individuals who have registered to provide public comment. Ms. Sherrills, will you please read the name of the first person registered for public comment?
Judith Robinson.
Queen Judith Robinson, are you there and connected? Are you on mute? Okay. David Feldman, are you there and connected? Did we lose the public commenters?
Hello?
Are you on mute? Is this David?
Hello? Yes?
Oh, okay. Please state your name for the record and proceed with your testimony.
Hi, this is David Feldman.
Please proceed.
Okay, thank you. Good morning. My name is David Feldman, and I thank you for the opportunity to testify on a predatory practice that is undermining sustainable homeownership, especially in minority and low-income neighborhoods. I'm testifying personally as an individual, not representing any organization, but as a housing expert who teaches housing policy at Temple University and has worked with numerous community development organizations over the past few decades, and as a licensed realtor with Compass Real Estate. And before I proceed, I just want to say I feel heart goes out to these homeowners who have been taken advantage of, and thanks to the colleagues who have testified today with much more information than I've had before today. So thank you for this hearing. First, I also want to thank Council President Clark, Chair Gauthier, Vice Chair Curtis Jones for holding this hearing to expose a practice that puts homeowners at risk of losing equity they've built in their homes and possibly losing their homes as well. The practice being examined here is related to another predatory practice. The Council has enacted legislation to control earlier in this legislative session, a bill to regulate wholesalers of real property and to provide notice to homeowners whose property was being listed for sale by a wholesaler. That was excellent and much needed legislation, but it does not appear that there's been follow-up in any public entity to monitor compliance or to reach out to homeowners whose properties are listed for sale to make sure the homeowners understand the wholesaling practice and how it erodes the value they receive for their home. My chief concern is that the lack of enforcement and notification around the wholesaling protections has sent a signal to bad actors in this space that it's business as usual from before the legislation was enacted, and that for all of council's good intentions, the word on the street is that wholesalers can ignore the law and continue to operate freely, stealing value from homeowners, usually low and income minority homeowners. And now we're examining an even more predatory practice that has quickly constrained hundreds, if not thousands, of local homeowners from being in control of the homes that they own. Whatever conclusions or legislation comes out of this hearing, it's incumbent upon council and particularly district council members and their constituent service staff to work to inform their homeowner constituents of this practice and of any remedies that they put in place, and to follow up to see that any legal protections are actually undertaken and that bad actors are identified and held to account for their actions. One example of the type of action is the role of the recorder of deeds, which helped expose this egregious practice, does by notifying homeowners when an action has been recorded against their home. We shall be very glad that this helped bring this to light before even more people were preyed upon. And finally, thank you for the step of having this hearing. I implore you to not just pass relevant legislation, but use the full ability of your offices to make sure that any legislation you enact is used to inform homeowners and to stop further predatory practices. Thank you very much.
Thank you, David, for giving comment today and for your work and recommendations. Queen Judith Robinson, are you there and connected? Are you muted? Okay.
We're calling her in now.
Good morning.
Madam Chair.
Good morning. Can you please state your name for the record and proceed with your comment?
Yes, good morning. Queen Judith Robinson, and I was waiting for the call. Thank you very much. I guess I have a little different spin on this after watching real estate activities here in Philadelphia over quite a while now. I'm going to say another day, another scam targeting black people. And I want to focus on the governmental processes. How did these mortgages, bad loans, deals, scam, how did they get recorded? How did it take so long to prevent, notify folks about this scam? How were they able to get 500? You know, I'm a real estate professional. I go into that recording office, and they take your picture, almost take your fingerprints. So I want to know, how long did this go on? And as the person before me spoke, I'm speaking as a professional in the real estate business of many, many years. And this is just like that scam. How did you all find out about this nonsense and then turn around and do the wholesale bill? He's right. Same scam. It's like y'all going along with it. Because even a criminal, former criminal, somebody who was fraudulent, can get a wholesaling license and do the same darn thing this company has done. So, you know, what are you all talking about? You're having this hearing today, but you all are very much a part of this. You know, taking black folks' equity and not being of value to them beforehand. I'm going to give some solutions because that's what it's all about. Because we see that sheriff sale is predatory. You know, you take people's houses, and it's a very scandalous thing going on where folks can come in and get the house for exactly the amount owed. Something strange about that. You talked about predatory lending in the past, but you came up with nothing of value. So in that regard, I'm going to come up with a few solutions. Okay, so people are looking for small loan products. There used to be something called discount lenders. They would lend like under $10,000. The city of Philadelphia is talking about a public bank. Hurry up and get that together. Maybe you all can provide these loans. Churches have savings and loans associations, etc. They could finance some of their congregation. So basic systems repair, yes, needs to bump that up. You all, as a council, gave $7.6 million to a bunch of lawyers who are not getting the job done without any stipulation. Some of those folks don't even have an intake process. I'm going to give you a solution. Take some of that money at $7.6 million, and this is a tangle title process that the government was a part of, recording fraudulent documents on people's properties. Make these people whole. Make them whole with some of that $7.6 million. That's a lot of doggone money. A couple million would make these people whole. I'm going to suggest that because, like with your wholesaling scam, once people are able to record the deed, or once they resell the property to a new owner, you all cannot do any enforcement. So, you know, this is a predatory city, predatory governmental process. That's what I do all the time, is look at how what you all do down there, and Mr. and Mrs. Powerful, okay? Y'all got all this power, and then y'all do these things that are so strange to me. I'm not going to never say it's all right if it's not. Ain't nothing cute about this stuff. You got all these consumer this and all these different agencies, and y'all can't stop this mess. I say cut out some of the agencies and give the money to the consumer who's being scammed. Starting with eminent domain, another governmental process where you take people's property and never give them fair market value. So I'm looking at the whole predatory scam being run against black people on choice land where I live in North Philly, okay? And it starts with government. This couldn't happen without the governmental processes. So with that, I'll see you all at the next council session. Whenever I'm not there, I'm somewhere else uptown dealing with some other mess like this transit mess, okay? So, but I digress. So have a good one. See what we can do about that. A whole bunch of scams in Philly. Take care. Have a great day.
Thank you for your comment and your recommendations. Are there any additional questions or comments from members of the committee or members who have joined us? There being no further questions from members of the committee and no other witnesses to testify, I will ask if there is anyone else present in this hearing whose name we have failed to call and that wishes to offer testimony on the resolution being considered today. Hearing none, this concludes the business before the Committee on Housing, Neighborhood Development, and the Homeless today. And I just want to thank everyone who's testified today, everyone who shared their stories today. I am appreciative of our Attorney General for taking action against this predatory company. I hope that every homeowner in Philadelphia represented by those 500 mortgages receives justice. I hope this company is shut down, and I hope the owners personally lose anything that they've stripped from other people and then some. So thank you so much for joining us, and look forward to working with you all on this. And thanks again to Council President Clark for bringing this to our attention. Bye-bye, everybody.